to Reading the List, where we review, discuss, and reimagine popular movie lists objectively. We're your hosts, I'm Jerry.
And I'm Brad. And on this episode, we'll be discussing number 66 from AFI's 100 Years, 100 Passions, the 100 Greatest Love Stories of All Time.
Okay, and number 66 is Manhattan, released in 1979, directed and written by Woody Allen, starring Woody Allen, Diane Keaton, and a 17-year-old Mariel Hemingway.
So, the synopsis for this dramedy is as follows. Creepy, twice-divorced 42-year-old writer Isaac, played by Woody Allen, quits his boring TV writing job. He is dating 17-year-old Tracy, played by Mariel Hemingway. His married best friend, Yale, is having an affair with Mary, played by Diane Keaton. Isaac's ex-wife, Jill, played by Meryl Streep, is writing a confessional about their marriage. When Isaac meets Mary, he is offended by her cultural snobbery. They run into each other again at an Equal Rights Amendment fundraiser, and he escorts her home, and they chat until sunrise. Despite his growing attraction to Mary, he continues his pedophilic relationship with Tracy, but emphasizes their relationship can't be serious and encourages her to pursue acting in London. Yale breaks things off with Mary and suggests Isaac ask her out. Isaac does so and also breaks up with Tracy. Before long, Mary has essentially moved in. Yale's wife, Emily, is curious about Isaac's new girlfriend, and the four go out. They pass a bookstore and come across Jill's book, which they read aloud to everyone's amusement but Isaac's, who is humiliated. Later at home, Mary tells Isaac she is still in love with Yale and wants to break up. Isaac confronts Yale about the whole situation. Yale tells him he's leaving Emily for Mary. Isaac discusses the affair with Emily, who is a little upset because Yale told her he met Mary through Isaac. Isaac hurries off to see Tracy. He finds her on her way out to London, where they share a bittersweet goodbye.
Trash.
AFI, seriously. Like honestly, this movie being on any list. So, sometimes you can separate the artist from the art. There are some terrible people that make some really great art, but in the case of Woody Allen, it's really, really difficult to separate the art and the artist because he essentially always writes some version of Woody Allen into his movies. And in almost all of his movies, they feature a much younger love interest. And in this one, it's a 17-year-old girl.
An actual 17-year-old.
And not only just a character, but she is... Mariel Hemingway, when they were filming this movie, was 17 years old. Okay, so I don't care what world you come from. There is no... And she is played off as extremely intelligent, mature, but she's still 17. There's no 17-year-old in the world who is mature enough, and female or male, doesn't matter, is old enough to be in a relationship with someone more than twice their age.
Right.
Just it's just not a thing.
So let's step back for a minute. So what I did was I kind of looked at how we rank our movies and kind of dissected it that way a little bit to ground me because this movie enrages me. So one, we value it on the quality of the filmmaking. On that aspect,
Scored very high.
It scored very high because it's visually stunning. It's done in black and white. It's all of, Manhattan, so it makes New York look really beautiful. And
it uses an interesting kind of voiceover kind of backstory-ish thing where it makes... I think the movie's called Manhattan because it tries to imply that Manhattan is a character in this movie.
Right. I think that Isaac's real love affair is with Manhattan. But, okay, so it's visually stunning. The music, they use like classical music to pitch the points.
What's it? What's I'm trying to think. Rambling Rose, right?
Yes,
yeah.
And it's also got really good dialogue in it.
Yeah,
it's a very dialogue-driven movie.
To be fair to, film's probably favorite pedophile. He's probably up there beyond Roman Polanski.
Yeah.
To be fair to him, he writes very, very good dialogue. He tends to write really good screenplays. But, again, He writes himself essentially into movies and always features himself with a much younger love interest. And if you know anything about his real life, frankly, it's creepy as hell.
Yes. Okay. Quality of the love story. So there's a few love stories in this movie, right? There's between Isaac and Tracy, which is disgusting because she's an underage girl. There's one between Mary and Yale, which is an affair, right? And then there's Mary and Isaac, which could have worked, but she was still stuck on Yale. And Yale and his wife, his wife was cheated on. So
And then you've
all
got
these people are pretty horrible people.
For the most part.
For the most part. Not only because their love story, is... I mean, not horrible people, but made big mistakes. And they fell in love through an affair. But the biggest thing for me is that these women characters... don't say anything to Isaac about this 17-year-old he's dating.
Right. So
she seems like a nice girl, is what they said.
Yeah. So our first scene after there's like a montage of shots around Manhattan where he's doing this kind of voiceover thing, which kind of continues at the end as well. But our first actual scene takes place. We are at a dinner in some restaurant with Yale and Emily, his wife, and Isaac and Tracy. And I could see that there are going to be some men who probably wouldn't say anything about Isaac going out with the 17-year-old girl. It's disgusting, but there are some men that I could see turn the other cheek and not say anything. However, I have never in my life met any woman who would sit there and not voice serious concerns about this middle-aged man dating a 17-year-old girl. There's no way that Emily is going to sit there and be okay with it.
And Emily is a good friend of Isaac's, right? Like, I feel that if I had a good male friend and he was dating a 17-year-old, I would say something. I would be like, what are you doing? What are you doing with this 17-year-old girl? Like, I wouldn't be like, oh, she's a nice girl. She seems really nice. She's very smart. I wouldn't, no.
Yeah, like Woody Allen, that's the other thing that just enrages me is like the whole script, he is justifying this relationship and using the other characters who would not buy into this, trust me, would not buy into this. Like, ask yourself, would you be okay with one of your friends dating a 17-year-old? Whether it's a woman dating a 17-year-old boy.
He's 40.
He's 42.
42.
So, just man or woman dating a 17-year-old. Would you be okay with that? Would you be okay with that to the point where you wouldn't say a word? I'm guessing the answer is probably no.
No.
I'm guessing you would probably have very, very serious things to say about it, and I doubt you would go out in public with them.
No.
Like, this is the kind of shit that you shun your friends for.
I mean, okay, she's really pretty. She's gorgeous. She's very tall. She's model material. But even when she speaks, it's a young woman's voice. It's a young girl's voice. Yeah. And it really is cringeworthy. And especially when you know Woody Allen's history. Yeah. Like, and it's just, no.
And then there's a scene, like, in the movie where they're, like, on one of those, like, carriage rides through Central Park, and they kiss. So he wrote in a scene where he kisses this girl who is 17 years old at the time. Yes, it's an actress. She's still a child. She should not be kissing a 42-year-old man. It's just,
yeah,
so gross.
It's so gross. And, like, I don't understand why a lot of Woody Allen's movies focuses on him, of course, but also a very strong female presence. And I don't understand how these actresses are okay with repeatedly being in movie. Like,
Yeah. This is
like has anybody ever talked to like Diane Keaton?
That's what I think she's been interviewed, and she's just kind of like
look the other way.
Kind of just like is almost like a no comment kind of thing, because there's going to be another Woody Allen movie on this list. I don't know what number it is, but I'm certain Annie Hall is on this list.
It's pretty high up on the list, actually.
And that stars Diane Keaton. That movie does not bother me nearly as much as this one, because Woody Allen is actually dating a woman,
yes,
played by Diane Keaton.
Yeah,
which is 2 years before. So Diane Keaton is in her late 20s.
Mm-hmm.
In these movies, that's a completely different.
And it's hard to. It's really hard. It was really hard for me to focus on other aspects of the movie, because I was so like, and the way he's talking about it, like with his friend Yale, they're playing racquetball, and he's like, I kind of miss Tracy, like, and he's like, yeah, you should go back. It's like, no one would do that. No one would do that. And the way he talks to Tracy, he talks to her like, you're a young kid. You wouldn't know. You don't know what love is. You don't love me. You don't know. It's like, then what are you freaking messing around? It's just, it's really horrible. And at the end of the movie, he loses Mary. And so he goes back to Tracy to try to get her back. Right. And she's like, hey, I'm going to London.
Like, you told me to.
You told me to. And he's like, don't go. He doesn't want her to go for an opportunity in London because of his selfishness. Yeah. His creepy ass selfishness. And she doesn't go, right? I kind of or she goes.
She goes.
Because I kind of tuned it out. I really don't know how the movie ended, because I was just like, forget this.
She goes.
So she goes, thank God. And he ends up alone, which I'm not going to say he didn't deserve. So.
Yeah, not a whole lot more to say about this. Just, if you don't know Woody Allen's history and you want to look into it, there's a documentary series on HBO that his stepson, Mia Farrow's son, did. And, he's a really, prominent journalist. So, it's really, really well done, chronicling the child abuse of his younger sister by Woody Allen. Not to mention the fact that Woody Allen married his very young adopted daughter and left Mia Farrow for her. So like I said, the artist and the art, really, it's almost impossible to separate them.
No, because it's very true to life for him. He obviously has a thing for young girls. He was like, hey, here's a way I can explore it by having a 17-year-old relationship in my movie. Yeah. So, yeah. He's just, I don't understand how. It's very strange and odd to me how sometimes we as Americans turn our blind eye to the craziest shit.
Well, it's like he's lionized in the film community. It's like,
I don't get it.
No, it's like everyone got in this whole thing with during Me Too with Harvey Weinstein for good reason.
Yes.
But and then there's a lot of people who you shouldn't watch Miramax. Like that's much more difficult, because then you're shunning a lot of independent filmmakers who made movies with Miramax, who may or may not know exactly what Harvey Weinstein did at the time. Yeah, I'm sure some of them did, some of them didn't. A lot of them were women. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of actresses who made their salt, shooting movies for Miramax in the 90s. So that's really hard. What's really easy for me to do is not watch Woody Allen movies. Like, I haven't seen a Woody Allen movie in probably...
This is probably the first time
This is the first time I've seen a Woody Allen movie in probably 30 years.
We're going to have to watch Annie Hall.
And we're going to have to watch Annie Hall. I'm not real happy about that.
I don't understand the fascination with his movies, to be honest, because they're the same thing over and over again. It's this weird guy who somehow
people really like the whole Manhattan intelligentsia kind of vibe that he gives off, and it's like, whatever.
When are they gonna start? It's so funny to me because I feel like a lot of movies showcase men that are not seen as super attractive, like with these crazy model women, like beautiful women, and like everybody accepts that. But if you turn the page, you don't see many movies where the woman is like average or not super attractive with these hot ass men.
Yeah.
When do you ever see that? Never.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of double standard is that? Anywho, don't watch this movie. Don't waste your time. You don't want to feel sick. We don't recommend this movie whatsoever. Don't watch any Woody Allen movies because he's a horrible person. Yeah.
We have to watch Annie Hall, though. But it is what it is.
So we'll be reviewing Annie Hall.
So, our scores on this one. I gave it a 22. Most of my score was in the quality of the filmmaking category. Jerry gave it a 9. So this is her lowest score so far. It's my lowest score so far. Our list score is 15.5. There's just not a whole lot more to say about this, as I can't recommend it. I can't recommend any movie he's ever done. I really can't. And it's a shame because he has a lot of talent as a filmmaker, but it's almost impossible most of the time to separate the art from the artist. The only saving grace of this movie to me is the way that he treats his ex-wife, who is bisexual and ended up leaving him for a woman. There's no shaming or anything like that, so that the LGBTQ representation in the movie is fair and positive. That's like
it's very brief, though.
It's very brief, but that's like literally the only thing I can say nice about this movie.
Yeah,
and it looks really good.
Yeah. All right, so that's all we got to say about that. So if you have comments, if you agree with us, if you don't agree with us, don't bother. But if you want to leave a comment, please do. And by some chance you're like, I gotta see what this whole movie was about, then watch it. But I don't think you should. Anyway, if you want to please leave a comment. If you want to email us at ratingthelist.com at gmail.com, and we'll see you next time, hopefully with a better scenario.
I hope so.
All right. Thanks for coming. Bye.
Bye.